Great job, Dan. And we've been talking about this Department of War. So we won the First World War. We won the Second World War. We won everything before that and in between. And then we decided to go woke, and we changed the name to Department of Defense. So we're going Department of War. And I'd like to ask our Secretary of War to say a few words. Pete Hegseth. I think it's a much more appropriate name, especially in light of where the world is right now. We have the strongest military in the world. We have the greatest equipment in the world. We have the greatest manufacturers of equipment by far.
Yes, folks, after winning World War II, we decided to go woke, apparently. Harry S. Truman, the guy who changed the name of the Department of War to the Department of Defense, he was just a woke liberal. A woke liberal who dropped nukes on Japan and defeated Nazi Germany. But hey, apparently we could have won every war if we didn't decide to go woke.
Thank you very much. Very well stated. And really it has to do with winning. We should have won every war. We could have won every war, but we really chose to be very politically correct or wokey. And we just fight forever. And then we'd, win, we wouldn't lose, really. We just fight to sort of tie. We never wanted to win wars that every one of them we would have won easily with just a couple of little changes or a couple of little edicts.
Yep, folks, it was political correctness, which is why we lost the war in Vietnam. It was George W. Bush's political correctness, which is why we got caught up in quagmires in Iraq and Afghanistan. If only we weren't so worried about pronouns and being woke, we could have won all these wars. We could have won the war in Korea. Is something that I would say if I was a moron. But let's listen to Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, doing a little slam poetry about this name change.
Restoring victory and clarity as an end state. Restoring intentionality to the use of force. So at your direction, Mr. President, the War Department is going to fight decisively, not endless conflicts. It's going to fight to win, not to lose. We're going to go on offense, not just on defense. Maximum lethality, not tepid legality. Violent effect, not politically correct. We're going to raise up warriors, not just defenders. So this War Department, Mr. President, just like America, is back. Thank you for...
Well, you know what? I'm glad for MAGA. After the whole Cracker Barrel rebrand, they really needed something else to sink their teeth into, and I'm glad they found a rebrand that they can all get behind. And I just totally love what the Secretary of Defense is saying here, Pete Hegseth, which is that we're not worried about the law anymore. We're not worried about legality. We're just worried about killing more efficiently. And again, this is the peace presidency that I heard so much about. He ended 7 wars. He's ending all the wars. He's the guy who's going to bring peace upon the entire planet, even as Israel is continuing to commit atrocities in Gaza. The war in Ukraine rages on. China, India, and Russia are having a bro-down summit where they're just deciding how they're going to carve up the world now that America has completely abdicated our leadership. We're bombing Iran. We're bombing boats off of the coast of Venezuela. And let's watch Kayleigh McEnany get reminded of the fact that this little rebrand is not going to distract anyone from how much this administration has failed on the foreign policy side.
They're going to make this the Department of War. This is a president of offense. He doesn't say don't, because when you say don't, the enemies act. When you say don't, Putin goes into Ukraine. When you say don't, Hamas attacks on October 7th. When you say do, when you actually do in action, you achieve the respect of the world, and that's what's happened with President Trump.
You were on maternity leave. Congratulations, by the way, during the Alaska summit, where he thought he made a lot of progress. I'm sure you did.
You don't check
and
out.
then Putin showed up, and he's standing with President Xi, and Donald Trump says now they're conspiring against me.
How many wars did Biden end? Also, when I was on maternity leave, we got to the fact that there are 7 wars that President
fresh,
Trump
even though
ended.
You've been on leave.
I am not fresh.
You are.
I'm very, and in fact, let me tell you how
fresh.
Let me tell you how fresh.
Yep, all distractions. And again, we don't even know how much this rebrand is going to cost. The number that I'm seeing floated is about $1 billion in order to change the word defense to war in every single piece of Department of Defense paperwork, building, etc., etc. Again, this is from the same group that cut off life-saving aid from USAID, stopped the approval of wind farms and other electricity projects that were already completed, just completely wasting billions of dollars in order to defeat woke. These are the penny pinchers I've heard so much about, and now they're just gonna like light $1 billion on fire. Lighting money on fire for a rebrand that is a distraction. Lighting money on fire for, again, those Rose Garden Club steaks, while at the same time they're canceling Meals on Wheels, kicking like 17 million people off their healthcare because we gotta, really tighten our bootstraps and be more fiscally responsible, even as we blow up the deficit by $4.5 trillion. But you know what? I guess at that point, they've already blown up the deficit so much, why not just throw another $1 billion on the pile so Donald can feel all macho tough guy with his new Department of War? And again, I get it, because between Epstein and the economy, these guys need all the distractions that they can get their hands on. And we've got a little bit of new reporting too about something else that they need to distract from, which is apparently this failed operation that went down in North Korea during Trump's first presidency. Apparently in 2019, Trump directly authorized an operation to send the Navy SEALs into North Korea to plant a listening device, but they literally pulled up on shore. A North Korean fisher boat was around. They freaked out, killed all the fishermen, and abandoned the operation. And again, a top secret operation of that description is something that needs to be notified to Congress usually. But of course, the administration at the time never notified Congress. And when they asked Trump about it yesterday, he's never heard of this thing in his life.
Some new reporting on North Korea and this Navy SEAL incident in 2019. Can you say if the administration has engaged with North Korea on that incident since it happened recently?
Yeah.
And then can you share some recollection?
I don't know anything about it, no. I could look, but I know nothing about it.
Can you confirm that it happened?
I don't know anything about it. I'm hearing it now for the first time.
Okay, great. And then
Yeah. It's an operation that I personally approved, but I have no idea about it. Because, it miraculously failed, so of course he had nothing to do with it, never heard of it. I lied to Congress about it, and now I'm lying to the media about it. But hey, that's just another Tuesday in this administration. And the abuse of the United States military for Donald Trump's personal political stunts, for the satisfaction of his authoritarian leanings, is ramping up, not down. In a Truth Social post today, he literally declared war on the city of Chicago. A real war, not a metaphorical one. And remember, in that clip I showed you earlier, Pete Hegseth said in no uncertain terms that he is not worried about legality anymore, that he is purely worried about lethality. They showed that when they drone striked a boat off the coast of Venezuela with no legal authority. JD Vance is out there saying, our legal authority is fuck you, basically. We can do whatever we want. And now they're openly posturing about sicking the new Department of War on American cities, on American citizens. Specifically in cities and states where their political opponents live.
But it's not. The Republican Party is not a functioning American political party, and as we've known it. It has become an extremist movement that is completely under the control of a guy who is basically a gangster in the White House.
And I want to look ahead to this week and the potential for possible deployment of the National Guard to additional cities like Chicago, maybe New Orleans, Portland. Who knows what Trump is going to say next. But a federal judge ruled that Trump deployment of military troops to Los Angeles was illegal. The ruling said that such conduct is a serious violation of the Posse Comitatus Act. In fact, these violations were part of a top-down systemic effort by defendants to use military troops to execute various sectors of federal law. This judge also, by the way, accused the Trump administration of creating a national police force with Donald Trump as its chief. What does this mean for the potential deployment? I mean, can a ruling like this stop that in its tracks, Andrew?
It can for the moment. It is something that's stayed while it's being appealed. This will ultimately go to the Supreme Court. But to the district judge's point, the most recent executive order on this is explicitly about creating a national force. Just to be clear, while the title of that executive order talks about D.C., the substance of it says there will be a force that can be used nationwide. Where are we seeing it happen? We're seeing it happen in blue states and cities. What I am looking to is what is going to happen before the midterms, and getting people used to the idea of the military, the ruse of saying we're doing this because of a crime problem, which is, in my view, a total ruse. There will be a crime problem. There's always a crime problem everywhere, and that's going to be the thing that allows you to do this, then you can just have the military everywhere and violate the Pasukatatas Act, with abandon. And to me, the real thing to keep an eye out is the military going to be used as a way to deter voting in advance of the midterms? To me, that is sort of the part of the end game here.
Stuart, do you agree with Andrew that at the end of the day, what we should all be concerned about watching is that the end game here is the Trump administration using these forces either for folks to get used to it, and then most importantly, maybe to intimidate voters from voting in 2026, or even later on in 2025 in New Jersey and Virginia in these gubernatorial races?
Yeah, I think Andrew's exactly right on this. They're trying to normalize seeing tanks in the street, trying to normalize having military near polling places. I mean, if we were talking a year ago and I said, look, a year from now, there's going to be a United States force of masked men who have a budget larger than the Marines chasing gardeners through Brentwood, would have said, that's crazy. We're going to have tanks in D.C. We said, no, that's not going to happen. But look, this is what Republicans understand is that the country is not with them, not the majority of the country. They won one election, which was very much a change election. You had the right track at 27%. No incumbent parties ever lost when it was below 45. You had a president with a job approval of 40. No party's ever gotten more than 2 points higher. But that's not an endorsement of Trumpism. And you've seen this sort of Fabergé egg of the coalition that Trump put together collapsing. And they know this. This is why they're trying to curate these elections. This is what Cleta Mitchell's working on. This is what Leonard Leo is working on. And it is extraordinarily dangerous. And I just say this, no one ever tried to change the rules of a game they were winning.
It's just astounding. And again, it's a reminder why Democrats need to fight now more than ever. We're dealing with a group of people who fundamentally does not believe in the rule of law. We're hoping for courts to come save us, when this is a group that says they don't care about what the courts want. And yes, does that mean that we shouldn't pursue litigation, that Democrats and progressive groups and just people who like democracy in general shouldn't push back in whatever legal manner they have? Of course they should. But the folks who think that we can just wait this one out while our democracy is slowly being boiled to death by Donald Trump and his cronies, you are sorely mistaken. Yes, we're going to go out and vote. Yes, we're going to knock doors, etc., and engage in the political process and win and beat MAGA at the ballot box. But the time to act isn't just next year either. The time to act is always now. The time to act is when soldiers are being deployed in any city, not just when the soldiers finally make it to your home. The time to fight is always now. And just today, people in DC were fighting back with a protest, a massive protest against the invasion of their city. Don't believe Trump. Nobody asked for this. Nobody asked for his authoritarianism. Nobody supports him invading our cities. We're going to fight and we're going to win.